But you could also use an export file for WordPress, so that would be a WXR file, a WordPress extended RSS file. So how would you be able to use that? You could transform an export file into a WXR file, because not many platforms actually provide those WXR files. Why should they? They don't want you to leave. But then there's some trouble around that format. So it's a text file format. It says RSS. It's just an XML file. You cannot have attachments in there. So what if you get like images, for example? How do you then import them? And there's content types that WordPress doesn't support natively. What about those? Like, what about all those different things? So, WordPress Playground to the rescue. WordPress Playground. Who knows what WordPress Playground is? And who's using it regularly? Cool. So, it's WordPress running in a browser. It uses WebAssembly. It's a way of running, actually, PHP compiled to WebAssembly in your browser, equipped with some JavaScript, and it uses SQLite. So there's no server-side code running, which means it's sandboxed by WebAssembly. And Playground can be tailored to your needs in many ways. So let's take a big detour about why is Playground a big deal for you. So this is Playground. This is on the top. It says playground.wordpress.net, and then below you can see kind of a fake URL bar, and you can use WordPress as if it were installed on the server. You can go around. You can edit blog posts. You can change the styling. You can view it on the front end. And there's all sorts of settings that you can change for a Playground. So there's the WordPress versions. You can test something with a specific WordPress version. You can change the PHP version. You can switch the language. But mind you that switching the language doesn't switch the post content. So it will switch the language of WordPress. So, for example, the menus that are changed from the translation side, but not the content. So, you can use WordPress Playground to try plugins without risking your site. You can showcase a website without even having hosting for it. You can run beta versions of WordPress or of plugins. And you can translate running plugins without having to guess their UI. So as a developer tool, there's different APIs. So the query API is how you control Playground via the URL. There's the JavaScript API to embed and control it. And blueprints. Who's ever heard of blueprints already? Cool. So the query API, that's the most accessible one, I would say. It's through URL parameters. So you say Playground to WordPress.net, and then you can choose a plugin, or you can choose a theme, or you can set the language, or you can choose the WordPress version. Or there's seamless mode, which removes that fake URL bar. You can enable multi-site. You can set the landing page, so the first page that's called inside that WordPress after you access it. You can specify blueprints. And if you want to combine this, URLs, use an ampersand. The JavaScript API is a bit more complex. It allows you to embed it on any HTML page and control it from there. So an example of this is Translate Live. Who has seen Translate Live or knows what it is? All right. So Translate Live is this tool on translate.wordpress.org that allows you to run any plugin and adds a local blog press, and it allows you to translate right on screen. And when you finish with the translation, you can submit those translations back. So instead of the typical table format, you can actually translate the strings that you see first. And that has a much higher impact than just starting at the top of the table. And you can access it via this link, Translate Live on the top right. It's for every plugin and every theme, there's this link. And I gave a talk about Translate Live at WordCamp Asia 2024, and the talk is on WordPress TV. Check it out. I think it's a pretty interesting technology. Using Playground as a demo tool. So you could convince people, show your plugin, pre-configure it, make it look like the demo, but interactive. You can preview a full demo of a site to a client, so when you finish the site, or like they can test it, they can have admin access there, they can play around with it, it's in a sandbox. And there's a WordPress Playground block, so you can embed WordPress Playground inside posts, inside pages. And combined with seamless mode, it could basically give you a sandbox to run a plugin seamlessly inside the current website. So providing a preview of your plugin. There's this button that appears, live preview, when you add a blueprint.json to your plugin directory, like the SVN directory. And if you click on it, it will open Playground with your plugin and the way that you pre-configured it. For that, you need blueprints. So a blueprint is this way to pre-configure a WordPress with multiple plugins or specific themes, site data. There's lots of ways to do it. You do it with a JSON file, and it mostly consists of steps. So one of the steps would be, for example, install plugin. And there's 27 different steps. There's write file, run PHP, basic ones like mk, dir, remove, stuff like that. And then there is this visual tool, Playground Step Library, that adds even more steps, but it uses those 27 steps to achieve it. So it's kind of a way of creating new steps that do more complex things, but are easy accessible using a visual interface. So this is the step library. You can see there's the steps on the left-hand side, and there are like more complex stuff. There's the basic install plugin. So here I'm configuring a plugin, the Friends plugin, adding another plugin to it. So now there's 2 plugins being installed. And since this is running in JavaScript, we are kind of bound to this CORS regulations. So CORS is this protection that doesn't allow a website to access other websites. And configure the plugin with another step. And now it runs the plugin, and it shows the WordCamp Netherlands RSS feed. Or another idea would be, for example, to use one of the examples here. So one of them is a demo for a block plugin, a to-do list plugin. So this one installs a plugin from GitHub. So this is a brief insight into how a step is defined. But here you can see that the step is called GitHub plugin, but it actually uses an install plugin step, but with a special URL. But all you need to know is your repo. And then it boots up WordPress, and with the presented post, and you can use it right away. That's a nice demo. And all you have to share is a URL. And one more little thing. So for example, you could also show an admin notice, but how to do it? Technically, it works by creating an MU plugin, but would you know how to do it just out of that? But with this step, hello WordCamp Netherlands. WordPress Playground also has a showcase. It's called Blueprints Gallery, and there's different. So this is a selection of different like blueprints that do different things. So there's the feed reader, for example, that I showed before. There's a Woo store blueprint that you can use to check out how this works. Create block template, the GraphQL to query WordPress. You can use WCLI. And there's like 25 blueprints at the moment, and more to come. So how to access this? On playground.wordpress.net, on the left-hand side, there's a blueprints gallery item, and there's the blueprints that you can just check out. It's very quick to preview. So you click on the button, it loads, and you can play with it. And then you can try something else. So let's start a Woo store. This installs Woo, configures it, and shows it. Or the same for the create block theme. It's like a very nice way to just experience what you can do here. To learn more about Playground, I recommend the awesome WordPress Playground list. It has lots of links around the demos, the step library is available there. So I recommend you checking this out. The links are in the slides. At the end I will show a link for where to get the slides. So why is WordPress Playground now a solution for data liberation? On the one hand, of course, you can easily reset it. It's like a temporary site. So you can just try again if it doesn't really work out. But it allows us to give a side-by-side view of Playground if you put it in a browser extension and the site that you're trying to liberate. And an important part of this is that you don't have to go through files. You liberate it into a WordPress that's live. And because of that, you can also use plugins that can handle those non-native types. So you start it like this. It's in a sidebar. And then it opens this UI that allows you to start liberating. And then it boots up a Playground on the side. And then you can start liberating. The way that it works is that you help the extension to find where is the title for one example. And then for the other pages, it can reuse that the guidance that you gave it to liberate it. So here you can see that this post now appears inside WordPress. It was transferred from the left to the right. And this also works for Wix, for example. So you go to the Wix page, you open the extension. You first go to the homepage to set the homepage, and then you can go to a page that you want to liberate. So would this page be on Wix? You select the title, it's transferred to WordPress. You select the content, here it's in WordPress. And of course it's in WordPress, so you can go into the wAdmin and edit it in Gutenberg. It's in WordPress. So, how does it work? That was just this demo. So first you navigate to the site. You don't have to enter the URL of the site that you want to liberate. You help it locate the data, so it's universal. It's not like it works for any service, or at least we're working on to make it work for any service, but technically it's not limited to where data is coming from. And then it gets directly sent to WordPress Playground. But what about contact forms or restaurant menus or products? WordPress doesn't support them, right? But plugins can. So, liberating data, we believe that it's free choice. So it also means that in WordPress there's different plugins for similar tasks. So you can select your favorite plugin that should handle the type of data that it's incoming. And if it doesn't work, you can try another plugin. So, but what's actually the point of trying to export it in the browser? Why do we do this? So an interesting aspect is that you're logged in to your own page. So the browser has access to the stuff that you have access to. And an interesting trick is too that it also means from the JavaScript perspective, you have access to the same APIs that the website uses itself. They can't really do IP blocking, so Wix is kind of renowned for blocking you very quickly, or Instagram, for example, if you want to get something over there, IP is blocked pretty quickly, but if it's your own browser extracting it, it's as if it's you. You have the live preview of the imported data, and it's interactive while importing. So, for example, like you can see the progress or edit posts while it's already importing. So the traditional import-export works like this. You have an export file from your old platform, it goes into WordPress, but does WordPress support the format? Where do we have the media? And which plugin should handle all the stuff that WordPress doesn't handle natively? And with Try WordPress, we directly go into WordPress. So the posts go into WordPress, the media goes into WordPress, and if it encounters something that WordPress cannot handle natively, it will ask you, like, choose the product, the plugin. We're currently building the extension on WordPress/Try WordPress. It runs in Firefox or Chrome. It loads WordPress Playground in the sidebar, and it assists you with the export from any website. And after the liberation, you can view it full screen on playground.wordpress.net. So before you saw it was like in the mobile view on the sidebar, but you can also view it in the full window. And then, as the next step, you would then export it to hosted WordPress. How can you be part of this? So, lots of this is still work in progress, but this is a bit of an outlook of where we will go in the end. So, these assisted exports, where you try to guide the extension through on this web page, which types of content are there, how do I get them? Those will be able to export them, and the next user will be able to use them. So you could then also help and review those submitted assisted exports. You can make your plugin ready to receive the liberated data. All you need is to implement an action where you would receive that content type, and you would receive structured data as it was extracted for every content type. So for example, a WooCommerce would subscribe to the liberated data product hook, and it would receive multiple calls for every product that it's extracted, and it would create the products using its own APIs as if the user had inputted. And we've got discussions on Try WordPress. Join them. Let us know what you think. So, trying WordPress plugins is risky for your site. Well, you can run any plugin risk-free with WordPress Playground. It's server-side only software. Not anymore. With WordPress Playground, you can run it in the browser. I don't need data liberation. Well, moving your data into WordPress opens paths to other platforms. And why bother? The data exports don't contain all the data. So the valuable metadata you can get with our extension is something that we provide there. So liberated data or not, but try WordPress Playground.
Wow. I had no idea, to be honest, like about the data liberation. Then I saw, I heard a couple of them, like, wow, when, yeah, just checking the title and all the things. Wow. Do we have questions? Yeah.
When you export the data, you actually request the data from Wix and then put it in the WordPress, in the Playground. What would you do if Wix detects that it's unusual browsing behavior and blocks your IP?
Well, that's kind of the point. You're logged in as your own user. You're basically as if you're browsing your own data over and over, right?
But it's unusual behavior.
If you go to your own website and Wix and scroll through the posts,
I will never scroll through all the posts on all my pages.
but it's a legitimate use. I mean, of course, they could start blocking you, and then we would probably try to go slower. But you go offline, go to another IP address, and go on again with your own browser. It's kind of, yeah. I mean, they might try. I don't know. But
what they could also do is they could prohibit you doing that.
But you're accessing the website with your own browser. So, you know, it's mostly about basically you're the user. You have a right to access your own data. So this is something that we try to, yeah, you know, it's like we are, as WordPress Playground, we kind of represent the user. And that's the idea of how we think that is a viable path of even working with websites that are not cooperative in exporting.
Another question? Second?
Hi. I hope this is not something I missed because I dropped in a little late, but you mentioned assisted export, right? Or like you call it assisted export, which is a very sort of easy thing to understand, where you're taking the page on the one CMS, whatever it is, and you're sort of dropping them into the new one, right? And WordPress sort of interprets where to put these pages. Does that mean that it can sort of, and extrapolates probably the wrong word, but if you have a content type that has a certain kind of markup and you have 100 pieces of content that use the same, that it will know, like, okay, I have 100 blog posts, I will now try and sort of import that data. Is that already available, that kind of functionality, or do you actually have to do assist the export for every single?
No. Like the idea is to actually do what you say. Like it would then crawl the whole site and reuse those. Like we start with CSS selectors basically, and there's thoughts of like using the second page to verify if it got it right on the second page too, and kind of consolidate the CSS selectors to the ones that work across all pages. And you can also edit them like for people who are a bit more advanced. But you could also get those rules from somebody else that did it before, or for prepared ones.
That is very cool.
Thank you for the nice presentation. Technical question. The PHP, is that also completely into the sandbox in the front of the browser? So we have PHP running in the browser itself?
Yes, that's correct. It's compiled into WebAssembly. It's kind of an assembly, like a machine code that runs in the sandbox, and there's some connection points to JavaScript. So there's, you're running something that's not threaded in an environment where JavaScript has promises and all of that, and that needs to be synced. So there's some stuff that makes that work. But you can run any PHP code there.
Yeah. Do you know about the project of ZC? That also has PHP and the browser itself built in?
Sorry, I didn't. Could you repeat?
ZC. I
I'm
will
sure
discuss this afterwards.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, but maybe one word, like in the browser console of Playground, you can actually run any PHP code inside that context of the WordPress that's running. So you could open up the developer tools on playground.wordpress.net, and I think it's called php.run. So it's in the JavaScript API, and you can execute any PHP code inside that environment.
Thank you for your presentation. This import function, will it also make it possible for me to copy someone else's website?
Technically, yes. That's
so someone else can
byproduct of
copy
this.
my website using this.
What is it? Sorry?
Someone else can also copy my websites using this functionality.
Yeah, I suppose that's hard to prevent. Like, with great power comes great responsibility.
Thank you. This gives some things for discussion, probably.
More questions? Oh.
Hi. Once you've moved your data into the playground, I assume that as soon as you close the window, the data is gone, right? But is there a way to already keep the to export the data out of the playground, like on your machine? Because you said moving it to a hosted solution is work in progress still. Can you export it now using that format that you mentioned?
So there's multiple ways to do it. So on the one hand, Playground can be persisted in the browser. So if you go to that sidebar on like that icon, there is a button that says save, and that will actually save it to your local storage, and it won't be gone until the browser clears out the storage or you deliberately delete it. So that kind of safeguards you against that. Then Playground itself has a feature where it lets you download a zip file. And that zip file would be the WordPress files, the media files, and the SQLite database. And you can then also import that back into Playground. And there are some services where you can actually already use this zip file to create a new hosted site. And inside WordPress, you can also download the WXR file. But then we are again in the situation that the media files are inside Playground, and you only have the text file. So the zip file would be like the better place there. But we're working on this, it's called site transfer, where we also think it could be interesting to kind of directly send the data to an existing WordPress via HTTP and not go the file route again. I think the files is always causing some friction, because you need to be sure that it imports in the exact same way back into WordPress, and if you just directly talk to WordPress, you eliminate some of the problematic parts.
More questions? Let me get you a gift. this. Thank you, Alex. A big round of applause for Alex. Thank you.